Hello everyone. In this video we look at the types of crystalline solids. So the classification of crystalline solids is based upon the nature of the intermolecular forces. So intermolecular forces between the particles of the crystalline solid. Based upon that we will classify the crystalline solids, and we look at what are some of the important properties of these different types of crystalline solids. So if you look at the classification of the crystalline solids based upon the nature of intermolecular forces, because one of the main properties that defines the characteristics of these substances will be the intermolecular forces. What kind of intermolecular forces operate between the particles? So based upon that we will classify the crystalline solids into molecular, ionic, metallic and covalent. So molecular means we are looking at the crystalline particles to be in the form of molecules. Ionic means they will be in the form of ions, so we'll have cations and anions. Metallic means we'll have metal atoms like sodium, iron, copper. These are the metallic solids. Covalent means usually they will be polymeric, like large covalent structures, like silicon carbide or carbon diamond, including carbon graphite. So all these are the examples of the covalent solids. So these are the four different types of crystalline solids that we look at. And since the intermolecular forces are going to be different, the properties in terms of their the strength, melting points, as well as their electrical conductivity will be different for these different types of crystalline solids. So we'll start with the molecular solids first. If you look at the molecular solids, the constituent particles of the molecular solids will be molecules. And when we talk about the molecules, between the molecules, if you look at the forces between the molecules, say CCl4 and another CCl4 molecule. CCl4 and CCl4, the CCl4 is basically non-polar. The forces between the molecules will be what we call as the dispersion forces or London forces, which are the weak intermolecular forces that exist between non-polar molecules. How they will come? They will come because of, remember in +1 chemical bonding chapter we would have discussed about this dispersion forces or London forces. So these dispersion forces or London forces, they will come because of nucleus of one molecule atoms attracting electrons of the other molecule. Similarly, the nucleus of that molecule will attract the electrons of this molecule. So that kind of forces will mainly depend upon molecular mass and surface area. So higher the surface area, higher will be the strength of these forces. Higher the molecular mass, higher will be the strength of the forces. So between the non-polar molecules like argon, CCl4, H2, I2, CO2, all the molecules between similar type of atoms, they will all be non-polar. The forces between them will be London forces or dispersion forces. And since these forces are not strong, they will be soft, and since they do not have any mobile electrons, the molecules are themselves keeping the electrons, so the substance will be overall, it will be insulator, it will not conduct current. And because of the weak intermolecular forces, what happens is the melting points will be very very low. So even at room temperature, if you see, right, most of them will be in the gaseous state, like H2, I2, most of them will be in the CO2, they will be in the gaseous state, because that temperature itself is above their melting point. The other type of molecular solids will be where the molecules are polar. So if you look at molecules like HCl, SO2, these are polar molecules. Remember why SO2 is polar? SO2 is not having linear structure. SO2 will be having a bent structure. So the dipole-dipole interactions are going to be existing between the polar molecules, which will be relatively stronger than the London forces or dispersion forces. So as a result, what we see is the melting point will be relatively higher, but it is still low. When I say still low, we are trying to compare it between ionic solids and metallic solids. And the nature will be soft, and since they do not have any free electrons or mobile electrons, the substance will be overall insulator. The third type of forces that can exist between molecules is the special case of hydrogen bonding, where if you have molecules where hydrogen is bonded to highly electronegative element like fluorine or oxygen, then between the molecules we will be having hydrogen bonding. We will call it as intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So remember, we have studied about this also in the chemical bonding chapter. There are two types of hydrogen bonding: intermolecular hydrogen bonding, second will be intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So intermolecular hydrogen bonding, right, this is going to reflect in the properties of the material. Like since these are comparatively very strong, comparatively means we are trying to compare with the London forces and dipole-dipole interactions. We'll see that the substance overall will be having a hard nature. Like if you see the ice, solid ice will be what it will be, relatively hard. And they are also insulated because they still do not have any mobile electrons or free electrons. And the melting points will be still low because the ice will be melting at 0 degree centigrade. The other type of solids is ionic solids, where we'll have the cations and anions which are attracted to each other in that ionic solid structure. There will be Coulombic or electrostatic forces of attraction, because in physics electrostatics you will study that the positive type of ions will be attracting negative type of ions. So what happens is, anyway, we will analyze these ionic solids in detail. So each positive ion will be surrounded by a particular number of negative ion. Similarly, if you see each negative ion, it is going to be surrounded by a particular number of positive ions. So these Coulombic or electrostatic attractive forces, right, is what makes these substances to be hard, because electrostatic forces are very strong forces. And if you look at all these ionic compounds like sodium chloride, magnesium oxide, zinc sulfide, calcium fluoride, all of them are what? They will be the ionic solids. They will be hard, but they will be brittle. We cannot draw them into long wires and then thin sheets. So the malleability and ductility will not be there for them. They will be brittle. If you try to make them into thin sheets or long wires, they will just break. And since in the solid state they don't have mobile electrons, because they have only ions which are going to be occupying some fixed places, they will be insulators in the solid state. But when you have them in the molten state or aqueous solution, in the molten state means we'll have ions which are now mobile. So if you keep some electrode setup, means we will see that the ions will be moving. So either in the molten state or in the aqueous solution, they can conduct current. That is why we call them as what? Electrolytes. So electrolytes are substances that can conduct current either in the molten state or in the aqueous solution. So we'll learn more about them in the electrochemistry chapter. So this is about the ionic solids. And since their interparticle forces, we don't want to call it as intermolecular forces, because here the forces are between positive ions and negative ions. Since these forces are very strong, their melting points will be high. And in this chapter we will be studying about the ionic solids. We'll talk about particular types of ionic solids, how the arrangement of the particles happens in these solids, and some more the quantitative analysis of the properties of these solids, like density and the distance between the particles, etc. Moving on to the third type of solid is the metallic solid. So in this chapter we will be analyzing about the metallic solids also. So metallic solids are basically having what we call as a metallic bonding. So what is the metallic bonding? If you look at the metal atoms, which will have a tendency to lose electrons, like we talk about sodium, for example, it is like the sodium atoms are losing electrons, and all these electrons that have come from the sodium atoms, they will form like a sea of delocalized electrons. And the sea of delocalized electrons, since they are negative, right, they will be able to hold on to the positive metal ions. Now we can call them as positive metal ions. So the positive metal ions are held by the sea of delocalized electrons, and this type of bonding is what we call as metallic bonding. We have studied in the alkali alkali metals as well as alkaline earth metals chapter that the strength of the metallic bonding depends upon the number of electrons released and also the size of the atoms. So if we have more number of electrons released, the strength of the metallic bonding is going to be higher, and if the size of the atoms is lesser, so these are the two preferable conditions. What are the two preferable conditions? Number of electrons released must be high and size of the atoms must be low. That is the reason why alkaline earth metals, right? Alkaline earth metals, in them the strength of the metallic bonding will be more. Why? Because each of these atoms, they will release 2 electrons. We are talking comparison between alkaline earth metals and alkali metals. Alkali metals release only 1 electron. Alkaline earth metals will release 2 electrons. Size also, alkaline earth metals will be lesser size than alkali metal atoms. Thereby the strength of the metallic bonding will be higher in the case of the alkaline earth metals. So if you look at most of the metals, they will have the metallic bonding, whether it is iron, copper, silver, magnesium. They are hard because the nature of the interactions are strong, so they are hard. But one of the differences between the metallic solids and the ionic solids is ionic solids are brittle, but the metallic solids are both malleable and ductile. We can draw them into thin wires and extend them into very large sheets. And these will be conductors in both solid state as well as in the molten state. Why? Because they have free or mobile electrons, and the melting points will be fairly high. Like if you look at most of the metals, their melting points will be very, very high. The fourth type of solids is the covalent or polymer network solids. So what is covalent or polymer network solids is, here we do not have any particles. The entire solid itself is like a network of atoms where we have covalent bonding between these atoms. Like it is not like we have SiO2 molecules and silicon carbide molecules or something like that. We have the entire solid to be in the form of a polymer network. Like if you look at SiO2 solid structure, it is like each silicon will be bonded to 4 oxygens in a polymeric network. So this is the SiO2 structure, and each oxygen will be bonded to 2 silicon because each oxygen valency is only 2. So this kind of an so it is not like we have SiO2 molecules separately and then we are talking about the interactions between them. We have the entire solid to be one single polymer. Similarly, silicon carbide also. Similarly, diamond will have what? Tetrahedral arrangement. Diamond will be having tetrahedral arrangement of the carbon atoms. Aluminum nitride, all of them are the examples of hard insulator type of covalent networks, because they do not have any since they are anyway covalent network, they will not have any free mobile electrons, so they will be insulators, but they will be very hard. Why they will be hard is because the entire structure is one single polymer. In fact, some of the hardest substance that we know, right, whether it is silicon carbide or diamond, they all belong to this category. The hardest substances are not ionic substances or metallic substances. The hardest substance that we know are basically the covalent or polymeric network solids, and their melting points will be very high. But we have some exceptions, like carbon graphite, because of the layered structure. So we'll have a hexagonal layer of the carbon graphite between one layer and the other layer. So this is, let's say for example, we have layer 1 and layer 2. Between the two layers we will have weak interactive forces, and this will be the reason for the soft nature of the graphite, where the graphite can actually have one layer moving with respect to the other layer, and the ease of breaking of these bonds between two different layer carbon atoms will make the graphite also to be able to conduct current, because these electrons, once the bond is broken, they will be available for the conduction. So the exception for the this category is the carbon graphite, where it is going to be soft, and so it will also be able to conduct current. So these are the 4 different types of solids that we have, and in this chapter we'll be focusing on the metallic solids as well as the ionic solids. So we'll study more about metallic solids and ionic solids. We'll see in the next part video.